welcome to Life on the Hulls. As you can see, I've had a really productive period over the last couple of months, especially during this this lockdown COVID thing. Essentially, I've been able to get bulkheads in place and really start to tab these areas in. So that's all coming up in our following episodes. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like the video, make a comment. What's going on here? I'm actually standing in my master suite here, and you can see that this area here is going to form one of the queen size suites in this boat. In fact, we have 4 queen size beds in this particular catamaran that I'm building. This week I'm going to be concentrating on the port cabin. We're going to be adjusting and fitting the module on that side to form the port suite, and ultimately I've got a couple of images of the finished boat, and I'm going to blend them with the work that I'm doing now. So having those production shots has been really important for me over the years, the couple of years that I've been building this boat, and it really is giving me something to aim for. Other than changing maybe the wood colour that we're going to use on the boat, it's pretty much going to be as per the last one of the production boats that was produced. So don't forget to join on the Composite Shop channel. That's sort of getting a lot of traction now, and I'm loving seeing you guys crossing over, because obviously there's a lot of information there that's relevant to what I'm doing here on the hulls. I'm also going to show you some of the work I did on Ron's Targa Infills, and just show you how I started to fashion the infills for his hard top on his Seawind 1160. Pretty important you see that that's sort of a part of the job that I do as well, is bespoke sort of custom work, and they came up absolutely beautiful. We're waiting to fit them into the catamaran, and at the moment we're not allowed to travel, so we're not heading up to Sydney, and he can't come to me and I can't come to him. So he's got a couple of tarpaulins up there while I'm waiting for obviously some of the restrictions to be lifted. Hope you're all safe, hope you're all well, and hopefully you're getting plenty of entertainment out there on YouTube. It's doing a great job keeping us all informed, keeping us all educated, and you know, plenty of entertainment out there, and we're avoiding drinking too much. It's pretty easy to drink too much, isn't it, at the moment? There's a lot of doom and gloom, but I'm pretty positive. I'm getting into my job, and as you can see, things are happening here on the hull. So thanks for joining me. Let's get into some work. Each of the modules that I have that fit into the respective compartments in the boat, the forward bow, and all pretty much all the way through the boat itself, have those large flanges on here. Now these flanges were originally there to assist in demoulding and removing from the actual moulds and provide a lot of strength, but they now need to be cut off. On this particular one, I need to cut off the flange on each side and along the back there. So I'm going to get my multi-tool and just trim this off, then position the module, and then start to work out where I can cut it off and where I have to leave it on there. I would prefer to leave it on there and use it to glass and tab to each of the bulkhead components, but the problem with that is it's going to leave quite a substantial hump as you come down. Therefore, when I'm fitting the lining over the top, I'm going to end up with a bump in the lining. So what I would rather do is fare back around about 50 millimeters, glue it in place, glass it in place, and then have a nice level tabbing, and then re-gel coat the whole thing to make it look all nice and neat. But there is going to be quite a lot of work fitting these modules, lots of work later on too, where I'm going to be fitting shelf units and glassing and foam core shelving and cupboard space underneath them. So all that work has to come forward before I actually fit these in place. But for now, I'm going to trim off the top flange, make sure the thing fits, and then I'll work on restructuring and strengthening the undersides, particularly along those corners here, and make sure that they're nice and strong, so that when I ultimately fit it in place, it can handle people jumping on it, climbing on it, sleeping on it, etc. So as you can see here, this port cabin module is quite nice. It's actually 2 single beds, or can be turned around to make a queen. But I'm fortunate to be able to use these photographs and give me a little bit of a guide as to what I'm doing, as the plans don't really depict these modules at all. But being able to blend the photo across the top of it, like I've just done there, really assists me and gives me a spurt of inspiration. So we're going to fit the module. So we're going to lift it right up, John, and then lift it up, and then we'll sit it in. Get down there. Oh, hang on. Vibrating too much. No, it's not going to go, mate. You don't think? No. Because I've got to trim the edges off. finish just to the top. Oh yeah, I think you're right. Hang on, John. These edges will get cut off along here and probably fed back about 10 centimetres, and then I can tab clean back to the...
You might as well cut your bloody... Are you cutting that still?
Oh yes, I am going to cut that. So this red line here is actually the chamfer panel, and that's going to get cut off, and then this top will be fed into the deck, into the bridge deck as well. Okay, so we've cut the flanges off here. We're going to give it a crack, eh, John? Well, if you get behind it, I'll get down the hole. So John and I have just spent the last 2 or 3 hours trimming and getting this module on the port side forward cabin in place. Now, the advantage of the way we've trimmed it is that it fits perfectly in place, but what I'm going to be able to do is underneath it where the module here intersects with the bulkhead, I'm going to actually use the composite angle rather than putting in big blocks and all the other stuff that other boats would use. I'm actually going to use this stuff. I'm going to cut small supports to go underneath this cabin module here on both sides and the vertical, so that when I sit it in place, it basically is going to find its home. And the trick with that is just basically getting it all level. So I've been trimming and getting this down to the point where it's actually level, and that it intersects with the bridge deck here, as you can see right here, as I'm showing you here. So this composite angle will be all cut to shape. I'll have one on each side and then one going vertical, and then ultimately when it comes time for this module to find its home, once I've got in the shelving, conduits, all the stuff that I want to put underneath, I can basically just lift it in, put some epoxy on it, place it in place, and then, and only then, will I then fillet and tab the module to the bulkhead and to the floor, and then I'll be able to gel coat it or flow coat it, and then polish it back and hopefully end up with the same mating surface. That's the way I've eliminated having a lump as you come down here. There won't be a step out and then I'm trying to mate it with a liner over the top. I should have a nice smooth surface like I've got up here on the tabbing here, nice and smooth and no step out. And I'm going to try to do that on the floor so that when I actually put my floorboarding over the top of the sole that I have here, there won't have to be any raised section or routing out underneath it. So there's a lot of things to go on here. The great thing is having it in position, I can now start to think about what shelving I need underneath, what conduit lines I need to run underneath, so that I can run my power and all those things that I'm going to have to put within this module, hidden away from view. So that's my plan, and it's been a bit of a good process. In fact, good process to get it fitting. Now I can see how I'm going to be able to use this brilliant stuff. I'll simply screw it into the bulkhead, make sure that it's all right, then I'll epoxy it in place, and there won't be any under module tabbing required to finish the job. So the next job was to cut a couple of hole saw access hatches in the face of these modules. Now these are going to be cupboards and shelving, so there's quite a large door goes on this particular section here. But using 100mm hole saw, I was able to get access and see exactly where I needed to make marks underneath the module to make it a lot more accurate in my trimming. But I found them very useful as handles as well. But you know, once I had that, I basically had access inside and I could see the real picture underneath along that chamfer panel. It was actually getting a little bit complicated working out where the areas where I needed to trim, etc. So by putting these in, I'll give myself a very, very good chance of getting a perfect tabbing line. And I'm going to actually put another vertical one down here so that I get a really good mating surface with the module and the bulkhead, and then ultimately over the top it'll be filled, filleted, tabbed, gel coated, and then polished back to the original gel coat finish of the module. So pretty strong way of building it. Now in here I'm going to have a whole number of shelves and conduits and things running in there. Now I should actually, if I build this correctly, I should be able to put in my shelving, glass in foam core shelving, fillet it, tab it, do everything. While this is out of the way, simply sit the module over the top, bog it down, then I can do my tabbing on the top, and everything inside is structural, complete, not having to do it within the cupboard at a later date. Pretty good model, I reckon, as a way to build a boat. Definitely better than trying to construct it whilst it's inside the cupboard. That's not going to happen. I'm not into that at all. So. Okay, so I've put some framework in here to hold the module here. Now what I've done is I've got some 30mm foam that's already got 2 layers of glass on each side, so it's pre-laminated, and I've just screwed it lightly into the bridge deck again. I don't want to pierce the gel coat and the mould on the other side. But for now, this is the framework, and then what I'm going to be able to do is I'm then going to be able to put shelving in and build the whole thing in here, and then just drop the module over the top and glue it down once and for all once I get it all tidied up. So I'm pretty much at the pre-stages here, but it will develop pretty quickly because it's giving me the outline of the space that I'm working with, and I can then put shelving in. I'll probably only get 2 shelves in there, or some drawer units. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, probably just shelving. And also allow for some conduits to run along the chamfer panel here. But for now I'm just going to lift it in place, make sure this is level. It's a mere millimetres in here. We've got millimetres in here. So I'm down here on Husky Wharf. This is our home wharf, and I'm waiting for Ron to come in. He's just anchored up out there. He motored down from Sydney and sailed down from Sydney yesterday. It took him about 10 hours from the southern reaches of Sydney. He got hit by a 50-knot westerly gust last night while he was on the anchor in a monster storm. I mean, it was a huge storm. So it's going to be very interesting to hear his stories, and he's a bit tired, so it could be a bit of a cranky bugger today. But anyway, he's on his way. He's about to come in and collect me off the wharf here, and I'm going to chuck a whole heap of stuff on. I've got some cardboard, I've got my my little shape making jig that I bought on Facebook, and we'll be able to at least get a start on getting some measurements for the template for this Targa Infill. So he'll be in a moment. I'm looking forward to meeting him again. I haven't seen him for a couple of months. Yeah, keep going. Yep, that's it. It's about 8 foot deep under that sandbank over there, so that's it. Yeah, you're in. Yeah, good. Yeah, bad weather. Oh, you rang me and...
Yeah, had a shit fight the other night.
What happened? Night. What happened? 50 knots?
I reckon 50, yeah. Oh. 40 for sure.
Oh, mate, I read 45 to 50 knots. Yep. I read 45 to 50 knots, Ronnie. So you can see down in here, this had a canvas top on it, and a little bit dangerous because you've only got about a foot each side of the boom to operate up here when you're putting reefs in, or you're dealing with the lazy jacks and packing the sail away. So these are going to be completely rock hard and serviceable, and certainly trafficable, which is more important. Just increase the safety on this boat. So for these Targa Infills, I'm going to use a 30mm H80 foam. The reason why I'm going to do that is because the more gap I can put, the less substrate I need on the outside. So I'm going to put one layer of 300 CSM for bonding, and the second layer is going to be a 1215 quadraxial, then with a peel ply finish, and that's pretty much going to do the job. And then we're going to basically prime, fair, paint, and then put some anti-slip on it at the end. So laminating flat sheet isn't something that is foreign to me. What I've decided to do is I'll do 2 sheets of 2 by 1 metre 30mm H80 foam, laminate it up in my wet room up in the factory there, and then I'll ultimately be able to shape the infills both by fitting it on the boat and then bring it back to the factory and doing some adjustments. So that's now done. I've finished both of these sheets. They're both complete. One layer of 300 CSM or chop stream matting just to get the bonding to the foam core, and then one layer of 1215 gram quadraxial. So that's a 90, 0, 45, 45 degree bias quadraxial, and what that does, it gives multiple layers of strength in one fabric. So basically, once we had the right shape, we were then working on how we design these. Now, they needed a way to mount them, and we needed to put a raised edge along the curved side so that we could bolt that through to the actual targa that exists on the boat itself. I decided by using some 10mm foam, I was able to then bond that upright along the outside edge, and that required a lot of kerfing and a lot of slicing up of the foam to get it to fit, and then a lot of clamping. But by doing that, we're able to get a really defined shape, which actually worked out really well. Took a lot of work to get this design right, and then on the top side we needed to then put a drip line in there to stop any water from just sort of shooting off onto the helm position below. So there's a lot of thinking, including a handrail as well. So we spent quite a bit of time getting this right. Probably, given the time that I spent on them, I think around about 2.5 weeks it took us, and ultimately get them finished. But you know, such a great result for the boat. So it's been a pretty productive afternoon. We've got the first infill here all shaped, and I think Ron might be a bit happy here. Don't you reckon, Ronnie? Hey?
It's a hard ask getting me happy.
Yeah, Ron's not happy very often, but that's going to be the first of our infills, and we're going to fashion this. We're going to go up and just check it, and hopefully we don't need to do much trimming. It should be pretty right. Here we are, we've got our new hard top. Doing 4 knots, eh, Ron?
We're doing
4 knots. Got a new hard top here. We're heading up towards Better Than Shares up here.
Yeah, we've got a couple of kayakers to...
A couple of speed bumps. We don't call kayakers speed bumps anymore.
I don't know.
I don't know what you reckon. Jesus, this water is still black from all the ash.
That's why we have catamarans. We go straight over the top.
Ron's got to think about kayakers. He uses the two hulls to mow them down. He doesn't like them. And I'm a bit not happy with that.
Just got to make sure their paddles aren't upright. Then we're cool.
Okay, so the plan is we're going to interface this panel I've made down here, and we're going to make it fit in here. It could take a little bit of extra shaping. What do you reckon, Ron? Let's have a look at what we've done here, Ronnie.
All right.
Are you semi-happy?
Semi-happy.
Okay,
you know
we're getting there. Yeah, no, he's never
I'll be
happy until the job's done. Happy at the end. Reminds me of my dad. It's like my best mate and my dad rolled into one. Okay, we've got this here. That's looking pretty good from there, I reckon. I reckon we got it pretty close, buddy. Yeah. It's pretty good. And
I think we've got to slice
that. Fit it. What did you just say? I want to get this on record. What did you say?
Start again. To prove what a good job we've done, I am half happy.
He's half happy. Yeah. Pretty happy. He's a glass half full man.
Yeah.
This is take 14 that we're taking here.
And about 2 hours ago, I was quarter happy.
Yeah. He's not a glass half full man normally. He's never bloody happy, this bugger. I'm always happy. But yeah, that's looking pretty nice. We've got the other ones already shaped up over there. And we've got a little bit of work to do here, so having a bit of a walk over the top. So today we've been down on Ron's 1160 all day, and we basically had another 3-hour session shaping the end into the Targa, the big Targa bar. Now, as it transpires, is that it's actually not the same on each side. Typically on boats, you can almost guarantee that things aren't going to be symmetrical on either side. A lot of this original shaping on boats is done by hand, and not like CNC sort of machining that you're getting now on a lot of boats. Old school boat builders never did anything by CNC, and invariably you're going to have discrepancies from one side to the other. And we've found that repeatedly with every single boat we've ever worked on. So today we've basically just been up in the factory here, and we've got this together, and this infill is now looking really good. I'll show you some close-ups of it now, but essentially we've been able to use kerfing, laminated foam already. I've had some pre-laminated 10mm foam, and I was able to kerf that, and you've seen me doing that before, but we've now got that clamped in place in the jig here, and essentially that now has all of its edges for the underside of the Targa infill. And then we're going to put a further one on the top to act as a drip line to stop water from dripping down onto your helm. There's nothing worse than sailing and you've got a constant drip on your forehead, although I'd really love to do it to Ron. I'd love to put a little drip right on his head so that when we're out in the sea, it'll just make him swear more. And I love it when he swears because he's a cranky bugger. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty solid, and we've just glued that on with that foam bedding compound that I've got. It's called Sea Light. It's actually a Q-cell mixture, but it's very light. It's like a Pro Bond, but a lighter version. So we'd almost call it Pro Bond Light. I call it Sea Light. That's what the Nuplex call it, the manufacturer that make it. Okay, so we've now got the basis of some pretty nice hard tops. I think these are going to come up really well. What's going to happen is these edges here are going to be rolled. We're not going to route them, we're going to hand sand them, because, you know, we've got them level, they're a dead level all the way around, but hand sanding will reveal a better sort of finish for us because we need to glass it anyway. But we're going to roll that over on the top. But yeah, these are coming up really nice. You can see how rough they are. I mean, they're a bit rough. If I've had some peel ply, I would have laid it over the top, but I'm out of peel ply until tomorrow. Ron's doing a beautiful job on the finishing here. Some pretty pro, mate, I reckon. So we're rounding this edge off here to make sure we get a good layer of glass over the top of that. Get our first layer down, mate. How good's that look? Look at that, beautiful, smooth, nice and smooth, beautifully fared, mate. We've done some serious prep on these, probably 2 or 3 days of prep to get this at this point. Is it laying down all right over there? Yep. Yeah, just stipple it on. Try not to brush too much. We want to make sure we just get it in there, and I'm going to roll it in a moment with a fin roller. Put 2 layers on and then we'll roll it to make sure we end up with no bubbles in it. So the entire series of the build of these Targa infills is going to be up on the composite shop in the coming months. I'm going to start putting those up as well, because I've actually broken it down into each detailed part, because there's quite a lot in these parts. I mean, they look pretty large and cumbersome items, but they did take quite a lot of thinking and a lot of work involved in getting the finish that we were trying to achieve. And particularly when you're fitting something to a production yacht, it's got to look fantastic. And Ron's pretty fastidious about his finish. We did actually aim for a very high quality finish, and hopefully you've enjoyed this little thing. But don't forget, go on the composite shop and subscribe, because that's where you'll find the detailed part. So this surface here, we've already faired it twice, and essentially we have it almost down to perfect. If you run your finger along here, it's smooth as a baby's bum along this drip rail here, and we've certainly got it. We're getting close to a finish that's going to accept paint, so it's not going to be much longer. We sand that up again, give it a light sand, work through our sandpapers, get it all nice and smooth. A couple of areas here needing attention, but we're going to do all that at once. We were both a bit sore last night, don't you reckon, Ron?
Yeah, my back was big curry all night.
I sat on my recliner for the first time in years and laid back. I needed about an hour just to recover. It was a pretty big day yesterday, so part of the downside of doing this sort of work is it's very physical, extremely physical, and yeah, I was tired last night, mate. That's pretty rare that I'm tired.
Mate, when you get back, just take another smidge off all this
Yeah, I will, yeah.
before you glass.
Yeah. Okay, so the base coat's down and it's highlighted, and what often base coat will do is highlight a lot of imperfections. So I'm basically hitting it with 80 grit with the Festool, and then I'm going to go over it with about a 240 grit mesh. Very, very tough to sand, but you know, unfortunately this light's flickering a little bit, but it is hard to see and hard to make out the finish, and some would call it good enough, but you know, quite frankly I don't. So there's going to be a lot more sanding on these to get them to a good product level. We're coming to the end of this project. We're about to do the last 2 coats of 2-pack urethane paint. And what that means is that I have to start considering how I'm going to mount these onto the yacht, and how that's going to mount is basically where the targa comes down. These infills are actually going to intersect with the targa, so we're going to have to sand the targa and prepare that for gluing, as well as consider how we're going to finish the top of it, and it will be physically glassed onto the top. So what I'm doing is I'm actually masking the end here to ensure that I don't get any of the 2-pack urethane paint onto this raw glass, because it's, why would I put it on and then sand it all off? Total waste of time. So by masking the end of this, I'm actually leaving it and saving myself work in the long run. So after getting a good fit on the boat, we were able to then do the final paint job. It was 2 coats of epoxy base coat, sanding in between both of those, then 2 coats of polyurethane in a high white gloss. Now ultimately the tops of these are going to have solar panels on them and the like, and Ron will probably add a bit of anti-slip where necessary. Thanks for joining me. It's nice to offer you something a little bit different, although it's sort of in the same line. It's nice to do something that really made a difference to Ron's boat, and obviously we haven't been able to fit them yet with the restrictions, but I'll certainly bring you that when the time comes. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe, guys, and I'll see you next week on Life on the Hulls. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.